Hi guys, Jeremy here, the Milcert guy. We're going to discuss the M1 Garand and the M2 ball only myth that revolves around this rifle. You hear on the internet, lots of people say you can only shoot M2 ball spec ammo on this rifle. Well, we're going to see if that's true or not. We're going to start off with the history of the cartridge itself, the history of the rifle, throw some dates and facts in there, and we'll see how this turns out. We'll also do some testing. We're going to shoot approximately 50 different loads of 30-06 ammunition, commercial, mil spec from all eras and time, and we're going to do some funny math numbers, and we're going to see how everything stacks up. A couple things on testing. The rifle itself is a late 1942 receiver I built. It's got a World War II era blue Marlin barrel on it. Throat erosion is 2.75, muzzle is a 1. Rifle's in great condition, it's been properly gauged. The gas cylinder is within specs, it's very tight. The oprod piston as well is within specs. The oprod has no issues, everything cycles normally. So basically the rifle is in excellent condition. One thing of note, the oprod spring, for the purpose of this test, to make everything equal, is a brand new Orion 7 spring. They make stainless steel springs to the original Garand specifications. They have a lifetime warranty. So basically I put a brand new spring in this, properly lubed the rifle with grease in the correct locations, oil for lubrication for preservative conditions only. The Orion 7 spring is basically a brand new replacement copy of the original spring. 30-06 ammunition history. We start off with the M1906 ball of World War I frame. It's a 150 grain flat base bullet, Cupro nickel jacket, traveling approximately 2,700 feet per second. At the end of World War II, they were having issues that their ammunition was being outranged in machine guns by the Germans and French, who had a lot longer distance because their heavier bullets basically had a longer range, and you had this whole mentality of long-range machine gun warfare. They found out our bullets, the M1906, did not perform as well at long distance as the other ones. So they went to a big development right at the end of the war and post-war in the early 20s, and they came up with the M1 ball. The M1 ball also started out, has some neat history to it. Its projectile originally came from the Swiss, the GP11 round. So they had gotten some of the bullets, put them in the 30-06 cases, did some experiments, said, hey, we like this, and long story short, it turned into M1 ball. 174 ground full metal jacket, traveling approximately 2,700 feet per second. This went in production 1925. M1906 ball was out of production due to all the billions of rounds in hand. 1931, thereabouts, the early Garands, the prototype models, you have the notice from General MacArthur says we're going to do everything in 30-06 because we have billions of ammunition. Makes sense. That'll be another conversation. So, the Garands in 30-06, it's in development in the 30s, late 20s, 1931. The first models really go into production 1937. The main ammunition issued at this time is ball, M1, 174 grains, 2,700 feet per second. Up until this time, about 1936, due to the war reserves of billions of rounds of M1906 ball, ammunition is perishable. We always use the old stuff first. While we're building up new supplies of the new stuff for wartime use, whatever, we'll shoot all the old stuff in training. 1936 comes around, you've heard this before, the M1 ball, because of its better ballistic aerodynamics, higher coefficient, is now shooting past some of the safety danger zones of the ranges, particularly National Guard ranges, not Army ranges, because they had a larger base, you know, nobody was around back then, had lots of space. Some of the National Guard ranges, which are a lot shorter, didn't have the actual safety zone that was required for the new M1 bullet, now coming into general use. Problems started showing up. National Guard says, hey, we have an issue here. The National Guard made a request to the War Department that says, hey, load us up another batch of 1906 ball, shorter range, it was safer. Load us up a batch of that because we need that for training. Key word, for training. They said, okay, we'll do it. Now, meanwhile, it's 20 years since the end of World War I. All those machine gun guys are now gone. M1 ball is now being in use for a year or two. People start realizing, hey, 174 grain, 2,700 feet per second. Kicks a little bit harder. It's a little bit, you know, it's going to be a long day, a long sore day shooting this ammunition. At this time, 1938 or so, the first 10 million rounds of new M1906 come out. And everybody's happy. Some of this makes it to the regular troops and whatnot. They're saying, hey, why are we shooting the heavy stuff when this stuff works good? And everyone says, well, we don't really fight that way anymore with machine guns, so why can't we just adopt the M1906 again? They start looking at it and say, okay, it's not a bad idea. They make some design changes, and because the nomenclature system of the government has changed from the year of adoption, M1906 was adopted in 1906, to the model standard, whereas Model 1 rifle, Model 1 carbine, M1, etc. This is now ball, cartridge, 30 caliber, M1, followed by M2, which is the new production. So they changed the design of 1906 very slightly. The jacket is no longer cupro nickel, it's copper coated or gilding metal, and it's now updated with some minor changes. The powder is no longer in use. They've changed the powder, and it's now called the ball cartridge M2. Okay, fine and dandy, here comes the M2 myth. The M2 round itself was formally adopted in 1940 as the service standard cartridge. Meanwhile, you've got almost 15 years of M1 ball production sitting in your warehouses, all over the world, on ships, Philippines, for example. So 1938, 1940, they're working on M2 ball, getting it back in production. 1941 is the last year of M1 ball production. There's no way that M2 ball was produced in enough quantity in the 2.5 years prior to December 7th to be everywhere in the U.S. military's ammunition depots and storage areas, so to fully replace M1. So when you say that M1 rifle is designed around a particular cartridge, M2, that's blatantly false and can be easily disproven, because while this was in design, M1906 was an issue, M1 ball was an issue, M1922 armor piercing, 165, 168 grains, was an issue. Tracer, and the upcoming M1 tracer, which replaced the early World War I tracer, M2 AP replaced M1922 AP, all very similar rounds, all different weights, all different pressure curves. So, saying that the Garand was designed around the specific M2 loading, that's just wrong. You can't do that, because you have so many other calibers or so many other different cartridge loadings prior to and during development that it was used for. The Garand itself, the rifle, has to use all cartridges in the system reliably, so it can't be one or the other. Arguments come out that in June, July, August of 40, when the first gas port design came into place, it was regulated for M2 ball. Once again, M2 ball was not adopted as standard until 1940. John C. Garand himself was already working on the gas port system prior to 40, but they said, hey, we have so many gas trap parts in the supply system, we're going to keep building gas traps until that hit. We're not going to waste money. So they kept building them. The rifle had to use every weapon, every round that was in the military's inventory, M1 ball, M2, etc. Which later, M1 ball later turned into M72 match, which they brought that back because of the accuracy issues of M2 ball in the post-war Camp Perry national matches, etc. So, long story short, there's your quick version of the cartridge history, the design, how it falls into place, and just a timeline of what's going on. What we're going to do is we're going to do some testing. We're going to shoot about 50 different loadings, including commercial, mil-cert, and what we're going to do is, since we don't have the high-speed fancy gear to test the pressure at the port, we're going to test oprod scene, which you've seen on the internet. There's other videos that do this. So we have approximately 4 3/4 inches of travel of the oprod and the bolt itself. Using Boyle's law, that if this mass remains constant, then the pressure that hits it and the velocity is directly affected to the pressure that hits the piston and works everything else. So, the rifle's been checked, it's in good standards, it's, for all intents and purposes, near new, brand new spring, properly lubed, gas systems in spec, in specifications. We have no issues. We're going to shoot all these different types of rounds of ammunition. We're going to concentrate on military ammo, and what we're going to get is the speed and velocity of the oprod itself, an attached bolt, because the bolt will hit the rear receiver normally. That's a normal part of the gun design. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a baseline, because you have 1942 M2 ball, you have 1989 M2 ball from the Danish. So we're going to shoot this whole range of ammunition, get us a big chart, we're going to see everything goes. Springfield Armory has stated in their records that the oprod speed, maximum speed, is 26 feet per second. We're going to convert that to inches per second and do it in feet per second, kind of see what's going on. And then we will combine everything together, get a big spreadsheet, and we're going to see just how big of a difference, how dangerous commercial ammunition is, or whatever. And let's go. Results are in. We'll go with the original comments from the Army in 1938 that the M1 ball does have a little more recoil than the M1906 everyone's kind of used to. Yes, fighting a day long with that would definitely increase your fatigue. It's a little stout. Test ammunition was Frankfurt Arsenal, 33, 35, and 37 dated. Average velocity was around 2740 feet per second. My testing procedures had the chronograph at approximately 12 foot from the muzzle, not quite 15, but close enough, using a blue chronograph. I also welcome anyone else to duplicate the tests and bring back what I'm putting forward here, and we'll look at all the data. But numbers are definitely showing that most commercial ammo is certainly very close in oprod speed performance as some US M2 ball, or M2 ball in particular. Some of it's slower. A lot of military ammo is slower, but if we're going off the basis of Springfield Armory, 26 feet per second, the fastest commercial ammunition has got the oprod moving at 27.75 feet per second, about a 6% increase over the highest M2 ball. The highest M2 ball, for some of our viewers, is going to be a little bit shocking. One of the favorite comments is buy HXP, Greek ammo. CMP sold, what, 50 million rounds of it over the past 10 or 15 years. HXP 69, specifically lot number 1140, inches per second is 329, which is over 27 feet per second. The fastest commercial ammo was right at 333 inches per second. 5 inches per second different. M2 ball, commercial ammo, 150 grains. Like I said, it's a little interesting to look at the numbers. I'll have a spreadsheet, you'll see it. Anyways, there's our test. Hope that will, in my opinion, pretty much settles the myth that commercial ammo is dangerous when the charts show that HXP 69, for example, TW 53, Lake City 72, they're all up there in the same bolt speed range as commercial ammo. A rifle in good condition, good gas system, a inspec spring should have no problem shooting this ammo, in my opinion. Look at the numbers, make your own decision. That's pretty much it. If you like the video, if you like what I'm doing, feel free to support me on Patreon. There'll be a link somewhere in the thing. Also, there will be a link to Google Doc spreadsheet that will show you everything that was tested. Approximately 50 rounds, a little over 250 rounds were actually fired. Some rounds were fired 1 or 2 because I had a small quantity of them. I tested a large variety of World War II era ammo. A couple notes on testing. Some of the cases, especially the World War I, the ammunition was somewhat suspect. The ammunition was broken down inspected to make sure the powder was still good, not clumped, safety, there was no internal corrosion. It was put into comparable brass of the same manufacturer, same year if I had it, that was clean and in good condition, and recharged with a brand new fresh Winchester large rifle primer. That was consistent throughout the whole test. If a round was bad, I used the same factory and year head stamp if I had it. If not, I got the closest year, factory, or finally weight of the casing. I did that with all the World War II era corrosive ammo as well, just because it's so much shooting. I don't want to deal with cleaning it overnight because of the test. So as far as testing, I'm going to bring that out there. That's the only change to the ammunition, was the actual brass and primers of the corrosive ammo, and or some of the earlier ammunition that had suspect brass or issues going on with the round itself. There was also one lot of DM42, which is Des Moines M2 armor piercing. The ammunition showed some issues when I was breaking down and checking it, but it looked okay. But obviously they had just started up production, they were having issues, the ammunition's old, lots of extreme spread differences in the velocity, so I'm going to include it in the charts, but we're disregarding it because it was all over the place. Interesting observations is, of course, HXP is going 2,880-ish at the muzzle, 12 feet from away. Pretty fast, so take that into account. Hornady Super Performance, 3,150 at the muzzle, but yet its bolt speed is no worse than HXP 69. Did I feel a little difference in it? Yes, but it was no worse than, say, Lake City 72. Lake City 72 comment, there was some big brouhaha over the years ago that it was D-Link machine gun ammo with a wavered lot. CMP addressed this because they were selling it, and they had some of it testing at HP White Laboratories. HP White came back and said, Lake City 72, even with a 58 grain charge of ball powder pushing 150 grain M2 bullet at 27, almost 2,800 feet per second, still met the port pressure requirements and was safe for the Garand. CMP's words, not mine, via HP White Laboratories. So if Lake City 72 is fine, and it's 300 plus inches per second, 27 feet per second, and your commercial ammo is 3/4 of a foot per second faster, why are we worried about it that much? Lube rifle, good condition, good springs, you shouldn't have any problems. Like I said, if you like what I'm doing, check the Patreon link. Anything you can do to help, because 250 rounds of hunting ammo and everything else gets a little expensive. And hopefully you'll like some more of my videos I'm doing here in the future, and we'll see what's going on. Thanks.